sometime 30.
Okay.
Have we started recordings? Okay, we started recordings. I'll just take this in and get it started. I will call to order. Go ahead and go through the roll call. Dr. Archer.
She asked for a Zoom link apparently about an hour ago. So I don't know if anyone saw that or if she's on.
Carr.
Here.
Here.
Terry.
Yeah.
And silence. Stand for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on the agenda would be to approve your agenda. Is there a motion to approve your agenda?
I know.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. For now, it's for the election of your chair. Do we have a nomination for your chair?
Accept.
Who was the second? I'm sorry.
Evan.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Is carried. Anthony, you're on.
All right. All right, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Nease. Welcome back, everybody. And welcome to our newest member, Evan. Thank you for answering the call, so to speak. Going into the agenda, public comment only. We don't have any public here. We no longer do the online email comment period, so I think it's safe to move on. Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. Go back to the election of officers. Sorry. Hey, we got to go into vice chair. Beth, you and I did talk about it that you were willing to. I nominate Beth Dhunjisha. All those for? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, ayes have it. Beth, thank you very much for being willing to serve another year in this position. And secretary, this is the one that I did not know about and what we were going to do because I didn't find out until rather last minute before. And, we didn't have a meeting last time. So I don't know if anybody has a nomination for secretary. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
Terrific.
I nominate Mark Carr.
Hey.
All those for? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Mr. Carr, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Yeah, and Beth and I have done it. Terry's done it. We'll help, make sure, the easiest way you've got your laptop is when they send the Word file, you can do that because then it gets submitted into the township, so that it can be in the next month's agenda for approval, and it's very helpful. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right.
You'll just for all the officers, for those of you who've done it before, in January, once we get all the officers appointed from all the committees, we have a meeting, we go through training on how to run a meeting. We go through
training on how to do minutes and do all of that. So we'll help you get all started. You'll have a login onto our system to be able to do that and get that all done.
All right. Okay, now, public comment, none, no public in the meeting today. Evan has been one of the recent contributors from the public, and now he's sitting on this side of the fence, so consider approving the minutes from the November 2nd meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
A minor correction.
Yep.
My name's Evan, not Adam in the meeting minutes.
Is it
Yes.
listed as Adam?
That's
There you go.
very minor.
Okay, well,
Yeah. That's all.
glad to see our newest member is reading them. All right, so we'll get that changed. And then how does it work when we have a change such as that, something
You
minor, still approve it with
you can
this
still approve
modification?
it contingent on that change.
I move to approve contingent upon the change. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, Terry. All those in favor of approving, aye?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? None, ayes have it. Meeting gets, the mini minutes get approved with that one edit.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch who was the one who made the motion.
I made the
Oh,
motion.
you made the motion.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I made the motion, Terry seconded.
Got it.
Yeah. On to new business, item 10, 10.1. Possible action regarding the social media post, January's upcoming here. So far, I know myself, Beth, John did one, Joe, I think you did one recently as well. Yep. Did that make it in? I didn't see it, but I haven't been as diligent through the holidays in December following the Township Facebook page. But I don't know if you know if it made it through. I'm trying to think. The December post.
I'm gonna have to look.
All right.
I don't know if it made it in the December or if it's in the newsletter for December. And I'll have
Okay.
to see.
All right, so here's what I would then propose and is if it didn't, I mean, we did review it, we went over it, you had sent it previously. So if for some reason that didn't make it in,
It will
we'll
have
make
to-
that the January post for right now, posthumously from December or whatever. And then we'll talk about the February. Either way, we'll get somebody queued up for the February one. So Evan, I don't know if you remember from just the previous few meetings, but we had a new initiative starting maybe 6 months ago where like every committee member, basically, we're going to cycle through. And if somebody feels especially passionate about doing a particular month for some reason, they would do a social media post that is related to the work that we do. So the green spaces, the trails. So we've highlighted National Bike Month. We've done the birding as you're walking on trails in the township, stuff like that, trying to relate it to. So that's kind of the mark here. Do I have a volunteer for the next month? Trying to think. So who hasn't done one yet? You haven't, Joe, have you? Okay. So do either of you have any ideas for right now that maybe you could bring up for the winter months here? No, I'm saying even if we don't, we would want one for February. So just to queue somebody up, I'm saying. Yeah, just at least queue up the next person in case yours, we did find out that yours went in. That way you don't have to wait a whole month. We could do safety related for being in the outdoors in this time of year, whether it's paying attention to black ice on trails, like paved trails, in different spots like the Goshen trails, especially hilly and paved in some spots. And there's always a chance of having that freeze thaw from the snow. You have to run off. So you could highlight that. You could also highlight proper footwear, proper clothing and stuff for being out in the elements for any extended period of time while enjoying the parks and enjoying the trails. That's the only idea I would have for winter, only because we did a safety share at work recently.
I would just recommend Mark, might reach out to George just for regards, like we don't maintain the trails in the winter, like we're not snow removal, those kind of things. Anything along those lines, George could help you know exactly what the township's doing. So that would be, okay.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, honestly, I think highlighting personal responsibility when you're doing this type of stuff is a good way to kind of segue from that and getting any information. You're going out, get those the goat track things for your boots, whatever. George isn't going to save you.
Toss out another easy.
Maybe you could throw in some Bill Murray jokes in there.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, all right. So right now, the contingent plan is if Joe's did not make it into December, we'll find that out and then make sure that that one gets in. And then in that case, Mark, yours would fill in for in the month of February.
Yeah.
And then if not, then we'll just maybe whenever you have it available to us, you can just send it amongst the group. And we'll do a proofread for you and after you talk with George and all that, then we can get it in this month if this. It works. Thank you very much. All right, any other questions on social media posts, stuff like that for 10.1? No, okay. 10.2, e-bike regulation and use discussion. So the last meeting in November, we had, I guess, created a new subcommittee. We had originally brought this up maybe September, October. Joe had done a little bit of research due to some recent interest and had did a little bit and presented to us in November about it. And we created a little subcommittee to go a little bit deeper dive into it. Joe leading that subcommittee, myself and Mark, I believe, were the three of us. So yeah, so that's really our first order is to set up that first discussion amongst us and how we want to approach it, what Joe has found and how we can expand upon it and eventually provide some sort of guidance towards the Board of Supervisors as we see e-bikes becoming more ubiquitous in the community. So I don't know, we can get after the meeting real quick and just set up a time, you know. All right. Is there any other things, Joe, that you want to bring up or anything new that you've discovered just in the holiday season? No post-Christmas e-bike sales that you want us to all know about?
Gotta buy another
Okay. What do you mean? Get them an e-bike.
one.
Get them the mittens, you know, so they can ride in the winters. All right. That's,
You're gonna run you off the road.
people I feel like are more afraid of motorcycles too. One, they're louder, so you can hear them coming usually, and then two, they're always a little like that person riding it might have a screw loose, so I don't want to mess with them. So, yeah.
Okay.
I'm one of those people that always wanted one and couldn't. So I definitely have a screw loose. All right, well, no, that's a good point. Yeah, right. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, moving on then to 10.3 potential zoning improvements. So this one, now that's, some of this might get delayed. So last meeting, we had created a new subcommittee. Regarding this, we had reviewed in the network plan every month as we do a section of it. I brought up something about the zoning portion of it. And this was 2 or 3 meetings ago. I can't remember exactly. And then Mr. Nease had rightfully said that, you know, your zoning should reflect where you want your township to be in 20, 25 years or so. And that it was completely appropriate for us to review at that point and see if there's anything we do that aligns with our goals of the committee. So that kind of started that conversation. Erin had originally taken up an interest in getting involved with that. She then is no longer with the committee now at this point. John Custer is the other person who is not at least with us right now, but obviously we expect to come back. And then Joe, you were the other one. So right now it is a committee of 1 for the moment. So I think to set up the first meeting, we want to see one, if, you know, what John's prognosis is maybe on coming back, because I know he wants to be involved if possible. And if there's anybody else that's interested, then I'll put it up to the rest of the committee members
Yeah,
on being involved in the
I'd
zoning.
be interested in helping out with that.
I mean, you know, John, if you ask him, he'll be back next week, ready to go. He'll be pulling all-nighters at his law firm. I mean, I don't know. I told him, like, care about you, just rest up and get well, so we'll see, but I know he intends to. He's had a rough year for sure. There's no joke about that. He's had a really. Obviously, with the zoning stuff, it would help. Just the fact that John's legal experience also really comes into play with that. So we would hope that he can advise even in worst cases. He's hit or miss on the team Zoom meetings or whether or not he can function it from his conference room where he is, but maybe if we can get that going, even if he's remote, he can help you guys out from that perspective. Okay, so Evan, thank you. There you go. Yeah, and so I guess this is mostly more just for Evan is we have subcommittees to tackle some specific issues that we meet. Joe and John and I have met on one of them for a while, and then the officers, so myself, Beth, and now Mark, we often sometimes float between the other ones as long as we don't exceed the Sunshine Act one, which is you can't have a majority for our committee. So we're a 9-person committee, so you can't have 5 people essentially.
Got it.
Because you can't have non-public discussions that aren't publicly advertised and also present everything. So we try to keep the committees always to 3 and under. That way, if we need to, the officers that need to pop in and help or check up on them can do that. Makes sense.
Makes sense.
Not violate the sunshine. Okay, so that's good. That's very helpful with the zoning. Okay. Anything else on zoning? Other questions? Don't know. I don't think, Mr. Nease, you and Aaron ever even had that initial sit down that she wanted, right? Yeah.
No, we started to, and then she kind of announced that she was not going to join in again, so we didn't do that.
Yep. Okay, so then the first step there would be probably having just an initial meeting, I would think with yourself before.
I would probably recommend that we bring Andy in, Andy Retchek, who's our zoning officer.
Okay,
Just because he would be the person who knows our zoning the best,
okay.
and then we would go from there.
No, that's great. Okay. Joe, could you offline, Joe Kasuska, could you offline get with Mr. Neese and work with scheduling that first encounter? Thank you very much. Okay. Next thing, 10.4 official town map. Really sorry, just want to know what the status was. I know with the holidays it was tough, but
We kind of put everything on hold
Yep.
for 2 things. One is one of your team we had to know was going to be reappointed.
yes.
Joe, you were reappointed, so we know we can go move forward. I also have a new board member. So I said, let's wait till that person gets in place and then we can just go one time and go forward. So was waiting for tonight, just to let you know that. I've already talked to the person in the office who's going to schedule that. Her name is Christina. Rose left the township to take another position. And so Christina's a fill-in, but she's taking care of that piece of it for
Okay.
us. So she'll be reaching out and trying to set up a time. And just because I believe who I had on that was Joe Falcon, you, Beth, and John. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, what do you mean? Yeah,
We can
can't
do 4 because you're a 9-member committee.
It was, we were,
Yeah, that's right.
yeah, we were originally 3, but when everything was unsure with John there for a while.
Yeah.
Beth had said that she would spread forward, so she actually came into a couple of the conversations, but yeah. But that means that on that one, Mark wouldn't be able to come in on that and float just for that reason.
Yep.
Would we be able to use the conference room at all for any meetings that we need?
Say it again.
So like, for any of the meetings that we plan, like the e-bike or the official town map, can we use the meeting room upstairs?
As long, typically if it's during the day and we don't have anybody in
Yeah.
it, that's not a problem. If it's in the evening, I just have to figure out how you would get in.
Okay,
Yes, there's multiple. I'm not using that room right now because we have a electrical issue in that room with the lights. But we're trying to get that squared away. But yes, we can do that. We can even set you up in here
okay.
for a meeting if you want to use this during the day. There's options. I just need to know enough in advance so that we can get it set up.
I mean, I can use my office. We have plenty of conference rooms, but
Where's your office?
that's why I wouldn't do it. It's all the way up Malvern, so.
Oh, yeah.
No. Well,
Yeah.
we can figure it out here. We usually can get people in and doing that. The bigger issues, if you're trying to do it in the evening, just to make sure I have access for you.
I mean, it would probably just have to be just because, I mean, it's tough for me to get here from Cherry Hill for this meeting once a month, but usually we do it at night when we have met in the previous, but we've met at John's.
But as long as I know ahead of time, we can try to work through it and
Okay,
get it set up.
great, thank you. Oh, yeah. I mean, what, Joe? I mean, typically in the past, we've done like 6 o'clock. Yes.
Not a problem.
At 2 when the bars close, yeah. All right, thank you, sir, for the update on that. So we'll look forward to having, do you have an idea, do you think, like, when that might be?
What-
Are we
I
talking
don't at
January
this
still or
minute.
February?
I don't know
Oh.
yet. I mean, she's gonna reach out. She's gonna look at the calendar and say, she's gonna reach out to the board. What I was trying to do was set up all three in the same, like set up 3 meetings for you in the same night, 2, and 1. And that's what I was trying to do.
Gotcha, okay, that's helpful, thank you. Pardon? It is Delia, actually. But she hasn't received the Zoom link. So. All right, nothing more than on new business, onto the old business. Monthly review of the network plan. Bear with me, I was having some computers before I can pull it up. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Oh,
Not
yeah,
on
you're
the
right. I
agenda,
don't,
though.
you're right. I don't, no, you're
No.
right.
we didn't talk about the last one.
No, we didn't talk about it.
That's all right.
Yeah, no, that's fine. We can, I mean, we can fill it in. No, I'm glad you brought it up. Thank you.
Also, Kathy Cavalier is having a chocolate tour,
Cool.
February 10th.
February 10th.
Yeah,
There's something
just
else on
before
that day.
Valentine's Day. And she was asking if, you know, if we wanted to set something up for either the paper mill or the tavern.
Oh, okay. It's on all of the sites are
You know
having it or
when is
just
it?
those 2?
She said either one.
No, I mean, she's had them also at the Octagon or something like that, hasn't she? All right, well,
On Tuesday, she only mentioned those 2, and I told her I'd talk to you.
okay, thank you. Sounds nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Probably a yes.
She's saying it's a chocolate tour, not wine and chocolate like last year.
Okay,
So I don't know what it encompasses.
okay. Sounds great. Thank you. That
We
was
no, we
awesome.
can talk about the last walk because it has been a while. We didn't have our meeting last month, so I think that's what happened. I think it got lost in translation from the one temporary agenda to now. So, yeah, Terry,
You were there.
I was there. It was great. It was a great time. We had a really good gathering. I mean, I don't remember how many people exactly, maybe
I'd say-
20 to 30.
I'd say we had about 30 people.
Yeah.
We went from the paper mill to the, no, we went from the
No.
Willows, I beg your pardon,
Bless you.
bless you, to the paper mill. There were open houses at both of them where they had hot chocolate and all this. So we walked down, had a neat tour, met some amazing new people. We had 15 new people join that day, and they had such a good time. So I'd like to do one in January, but the upcoming 2 weekends look pretty miserable. So I'm not really sure if we're gonna get one in, but we'll shoot for one the end of January, hopefully. And I wonder how that letter might be coming along that, gets the legal.
sign off.
Yeah.
Especially with the winter months, trying to get these in.
It's on the review. I don't have an answer back. I'm meeting with the solicitor on tomorrow, so hopefully I'll get some feedback.
That's nice, thank you.
One of the things that we have been doing and been very diligent on is not having an event if we don't have at least 2 people from this committee to be able to do it. One reason is we want somebody leading and up at the front, and we also want a trailer at the back, somebody following, especially with the potential for slips and falls. I mean, there was some new people that came last time that were, I'll use the term of advanced stage, that when they got in the real steep part, no, but they were very honest about it. Like,
Yeah.
John won't admit it that he needs help up those steep slopes, but they said, listen, like, I'm gonna take my time here. You can go ahead. I was like, no, I'm in no rush. Like,
No, we
here
stick
for you
together.
guys. and it was good because that one spot in the willows is really steep and kind of and muddy. Yeah, it wasn't that bad this time compared to
No,
the last
it was-
couple. It
it
was
was
actually not
nice.
bad, but that is one thing we've been trying to do just to be as conscious as
our
possible, the safety
meetup group.
component for these events. So, but it would, yeah, definitely would be helpful to have that.
So yeah, we have 872 members in the group now. And I'll talk with Kathy. We'll try and do one in January. We'll definitely do one in February. That's that. I also thought about Okehocking because Connect Edgemont is so good over there, and they also go to Ridley Park, and we haven't done Ridley Park yet. So there's neat walks, a bridle path or something up behind where the horses are that they go, and it hits a graveyard, and that's kind of, I've never done that
One of the things I was thinking about, if we would ever do Ridley, would be meeting here for one of the walks at the Township Building and showing the people that show up the proposed trails that we have that would eventually make it easier and safer to get over to Ridley Creek from our township and from various parts.
Yeah.
And then drive over because they don't exist yet as a way to kind of like, again, motivate people. It's like, wait, we're driving here and I gotta drive there, and to drive home the issue of why we need these trails so that people can access these great resources in the area.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. No, you know, I know. Well, we don't have to meet here, one of the other areas.
You young whippersnapper.
I'm making a lot of faux pas tonight. Steve's recording them all. He's noting them all down. Sorry, I'm all on like lots of medication from surgery and an ER visit myself recently, so I
Oh, no.
apologize. Definitely affecting my cranium.
May I just, since
Yeah.
we're talking walks, there was one of the folks who has come, JD, sent an email to us. I forwarded it to you and Steve and George about a sign on Listener that looks kind of foreboding now. That's kind of new. I don't recall that one.
So George and I actually talked about it this afternoon. I've got an email. I haven't sent it yet. I've started it to the HOA. Hope to get it out actually this evening before I leave, letting them know that the sign needs to be moved. Based on where it appears to be, it definitely shows that it's right there, like as you're walking on the trail, that's a public access trail. George is also working on some wording that we would put at the beginning of both of those areas as you come across Goshen Road, and then also as you're coming out of the meadow, that just speaks to the fact that you're going to be walking on a public access trail, but that it's somehow commenting that we don't own the land around it. We own the land. We have access. We have an easement to walk across it, but we don't own it. So we need to take good care of it. Kind of
Yeah, I
thing.
mean, there is one sign that's saying you're now leaving.
Yeah, we have those
Yeah,
signs.
but
right?
I know
We're-
what you're saying. It's
We're
like a
wanting
step
something
further.
that actually says, on a more positive, that you're you're using a public access trail that, in that way, but also making sure people understand they need to maintain it. So,
Yeah, and a lot of times, like when you do those transitions, you'll have signs that say, stay on trail, off trail is private property or
Yeah.
something like that. That's very common, so
Yeah.
it makes
it's going to be
sense.
something like that.
Yeah.
George and I had a conversation about this afternoon after we got the picture from the one. We were aware of one. I'd already addressed that. I was told it was going to be moved. We now have two. We're going to encourage the moving a little faster.
Thank you.
It says like private property, no
No
access, no
trespassing.
trespassing.
On the Lissitor
It's,
Trail.
it's right where, when you're coming up the hill out of the meadows and you have, it's the drive access and then it goes.
No,
across-
it's right when
right?
you, no, you're coming Goshen Road, the tavern's to your left, the entrance to your right, it's right
I think
there.
there's one at the other end too.
There's two of them.
Yeah, that's what
But the
I'm-
new one is
Oh,
right
okay,
there, and it's
okay.
big and it's kind of monstrous. Cause,
Okay.
you know, you just parked at the tavern, you want to cross the street and you're like, uh-oh. Cause he runs, everybody runs on that trail. Yeah. That's just inappropriate, be mild. We're gonna arrest you, take you in, that's.
It's not that, it's obviously just the fact that it's a deterrent.
Right.
Yeah, discouragement.
It
for
does
people
discourage people
using it
though.
when there is a legal
Yeah.
right to use it.
Yeah, it makes it sound like it's their property,
Yes.
their private property.
Do they have an HOA?
They do.
Officially now?
Approved by their HOA.
I don't know that answer. I mean, I've been working with their HOA president on this issue. And that's who I'm sending it to is, but I'll also include their new property manager. Because I just saw their information tonight as well. So I'm going to be clear, give them a reasonable time to take care of it, but get it taken care of.
Privileged.
Well, I mean, what I don't know is who knows what there and who's doing what there, and I just need to make sure. I'm taking the assumption that the sign was put in the wrong place because there is a section of trail that is not open to the public. And so I know that the one sign was placed thinking one thing. I've asked them to move the one over by the meadow and turn it so that when people
Oh, yeah.
turn the corner and they go and they start walking into the Lissitor area,
Community.
that
yeah.
it's very clear that they've left what's public access. And then this one, there's supposed to have been another trail that connected. I think that's where that should have been put and it was not. And so that's the reason why I want to address that.
Okay. Thank you, sir. It's not on the agenda because I'd already sent it in prior to find out this, so I'll just recommend it get put on next meeting, but I'll bring it up is that the EAC had reached out and asked us because they know about like how we review development plans and all that, and it's all related to the new home that was constructed on the corner of 250.
Yeah, I actually took that off and let me explain why.
Yeah, that's fine.
That was actually approved. I think we went back 2014.
Oh, wow.
So it's just that it got built recently,
Yep.
so it would be pointless for you to review anything. It was done.
I
I
know
know.
that. The
Okay,
only thing I wanted to bring it up, the reason I had it on there originally was just to ask the question of if we could find out, what the mitigation was regarding buildings so within the riparian for the stream that's there.
well,
that
it
was-
would have been whatever was approved on the land development plan at that time.
Yeah, it was more educational is what I'm
Oh,
saying. For
okay.
us,
Well, that-
for informational purposes, because we have gotten questions. And whether we like it or not, people reach out not to maybe the right people to have all the answers. And so we want to be able to say, yeah, we understand there's an ordinance in town, you can't do that. The township approved it because of X mitigating factor. They addressed it somehow. We didn't have that information. We did deduce that it was before this committee was even created eventually.
Well,
It was a law.
and it was even before we were bringing them before any of the committees at all.
Except
in
for the planning
Planning
commission.
Commission.
Yep.
Correct.
Yep.
It did go before the Planning Commission. It was reviewed by that. If it is within the 50 feet of the riparian buffer, and I don't know, but if it is within the 50 feet of the riparian buffer, that had to be approved by the board. and it would have been a board action.
Yeah, anecdotally, and I don't know how accurate this is, we had been at least told that the planning commission made some recommendations, but it ultimately ended up in the township engineers lap to make some comment or decision. And then that got to the board of supervisors to make the final call. But it was just, everything was confusing, and I wanted to clear the air, make sure that we got accurate details before anybody started spreading any rumors about how, that's all.
I think that it's appropriate to say that, if somebody has a specific question, they could reach out to the township and we could get them an answer.
Sounds good. Thank you.
A time frame when say a site plan gets approved and you go to construction, is there a time limit or does it have to go for re-review?
I think it kind of depends on whether or not, so that I believe was a 3-lot subdivision. And I believe 2 of the lots have been built one of the lots was being built when I came back in 2014, 2015 timeframe. I think they finished it late 2015 and then they built the second one. And then there was this break, and I think it kind of had to do relatively during the COVID time period. It's once a plan is reviewed and the construction starts, that it's pretty much locked in. Now, if a plan has been put in, it's recorded, and nothing happens, then there's some question of whether or not it has full legs, in regards that everything that's approval. If they were to make any changes whatsoever, then they would have to come and at least comply with the current day zoning. They wouldn't have to go back through land development, but they would have to comply with current zoning.
You know what the time frame is on the typical local permit? Is it 5 years, 3 years? Pennsylvania State is 3 years. That's why I was wondering what the time frame was before they'd have to go for an extension. Or
Well,
shuffle.
but the difference between land development and the permit. Land development, once the plan is approved, it's pretty much locked in.
Okay.
As long as they start doing something within, I believe it's 3 or 4 years. The permit itself, you can pull a permit and the permit's good as long as you start work within 6 months, I believe is the
6 months,
time frame. Once you start that work, as long as you keep working, usually the permit stays active.
Understood. Okay, that's very helpful though to understand. Thank you. All right. Okay. Finally, on to old business then, if there's nothing more, new business. And then if anything that you do want to bring up is new business, we can always put it on the meeting we can make that written in the notes for next meeting, make sure. On the review of the open space network plan. So the next kind of major chunk within that we're going to now is traffic. One of the biggest and one of the largest issues, as I understand it, that people have a problem with the safety of walking everywhere in the area and the traffic increase. Obviously nobody likes traffic, and we've obviously seen huge development where it's just bringing in more people, more cars, everything. E-bike thing came into this conversation as well. We do have bicycle paths planned. That's where you're talking about then road diets and stuff like that, which are very common and were addressed in the Delco Trail Summit that we've gone to now the past couple of years, and that's a big thing that some of the neighboring townships have been doing. And it's all, it's all related to traffic. So I personally get concerned about it just because I see all the time what I feel is like a very unsafe thing with people walking on 252 to get to their place of work, coming from the bus accessible locations and stuff, is just a general safety thing that the traffic scares because of that. But it's a problem, right? You have to either then build roads, like how do you deal with it? So it's something that was brought up by just about everybody when the creation of this committee happened. In the network township plan here, the network plan, most of it's statistical data. A lot of people are commuting into the city, just under 17% when this was done a number of years ago now. But just about 10% are commuting within the township. So they're working within the township, they're commuting relatively short distances. The average work time though or the average travel time is about 30 minutes though. So that means people like myself, like I'm going to Cherry Hill. A lot of people are having long commutes. My commute's like almost an hour each way. But you end up with issues like in the St. Albans Circle, which you guys have done a good job. I think it's gotten much better. I've noticed since some changes have been made to the traffic patterns there. Since I first was on this committee, that was something big, but I know a lot of people complained about the safety there and the traffic, trying to avoid that intersection at 252 and Westchester Pike. But you've got the big hits are Philly in the township, Radnor, Lower Merion, and Tredeffen townships are the most commuted to areas. And then residents commuting outside of the municipality, though, that's the big thing. It's 90%. So you've got the majority of people are leaving, coming back, and being on the roads more by a large margin. So it's something that has to be considered. Everything else is just really census data and fatality situations, how many. Luckily, we haven't had a whole lot of that, but it does happen. And the big one is 20,000 vehicles passing through the retail area of the township each day. I was shocked to hear that number. And this was many years ago when this data was collected, which obviously things have now significantly changed since. Correct. So that was like the biggest thing I saw is the 20,000 per day, like, holy crap.
George, correct me, it's much better.
And I do think as painful as it can be, I think that the improvements that PennDOT's been making on Westchester Pike are helping at least move the traffic through.
Once they're done, you mean?
Well, they're in their final stages of the
Yep.
project at this point.
Probably next time this year, that will all be complete.
That would be nice.
252.
Mhm.
That makes
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
mean, I would stop at the reservoir all the way down.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's why I leave at 6:30.
Are they done with the work on 252?
Up in Easttown? So that was an aqua project in Easttown Township, and I believe they are done other than whatever paving work they're gonna do. Yeah, that was an unpleasant time.
Both that and Newtown.
So, okay, so then the next part of this is that Gilmore, at the time when they did the study, had also had a list of recommendations to be made with intersections and stuff like that. And a lot of this stuff, to your point, has been starting to get taken care of, which has probably been the main thing of why there have been some improvements there for sure. I have no frame of context pre-COVID because, I mean, I used to come into Broomall, but that was about it. That's where I stopped because that's where my wife lived. But that was pretty much it. Pre-COVID, we bought our house, COVID, and so I have no context. But at least when this was created, and it's still something that everybody complains about, is obviously traffic, which we should try to figure out a way then to frame it in the conversation when we get residents that do want to get involved in this. We talk about the safety and getting it more accessible for people to walk when they can, so they don't have to drive just a half mile in the township to go do something, weather permitting. It's something that's definitely a emotional driver that has some basis in fact and importance for us that we can use to rally support for the committee and what we're doing.
Has there been any, particularly post-COVID stuff? I know like the buildings over on Campus Boulevard, a lot of them are now empty, but then we have the and all that development on curve that have popped up since. Like there's been this COVID.
I don't know of any recent study that has been done. I know that PennDOT has been reviewing some of what's going on, but I don't know that they've actually done a full traffic study. They're looking at a variety of things along Westchester Pike. And I think most of them currently are outside of the township limits that they're really working on. But I think if they address some of those the way they're talking about, it will impact us directly. I think for the better if they do those things. So.
So one question I have that I don't know if anyone in the committee or self might know the answer to is that when they did this study for our township to create the network plan and they pulled all this data, they cite when the data was pulled, but not necessarily all the resources of how they came upon that. Does PennDOT make the type of traffic studies available? I mean, obviously it's tax dollars paying for it, but I don't know if it's something you have to go through a FOIA or maybe as part of all this construction that they are doing and improvements, they're required to then do a post-construction or even intermediate study to see how many more vehicles, what's going on.
Well, what I would tell you is, it may have been a PennDOT study. It may have also been a DVRPC study, a Delaware Valley, Regional Planning Commission.
Okay,
They are actually doing more of the studies now, because they're looking at all of these issues. And then depending on the development, some developments require traffic studies to be done. When Lister was done, I believe there was a required traffic study. I know when the Ellis Preserve was done, there was a required traffic study. So it's not uncommon for a developer to have done a traffic study. So I don't know where they pulled the information from, or even all the data. I do not believe they did a true traffic study at the time. They just pulled information from prior studies.
So Delaware County has a map of the county with all state roads and traffic volumes for all the roads.
okay.
And I don't know how often they update it, but it's.
Yeah, but they might cite at least when it was done, and if it was more recent than the one that was used to generate this, it would at least provide some context for these
What
conversations.
year was that generated?
I think it was 2018, maybe? I think it was 2018.
Yeah, I don't know if it's more recent than that.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, again, like I know matter of procedure that PennDOT, when they do major work, are required to do a pre and post. They do a pre to justify the work in the first place. And then they're required to do a post after for a set period of time to be able to see how it's improved, that then further justifies doing the same type of thing in another community, something like that. It's like this kind of never ending
Right.
cycle of it. But yeah, that's.
They do a traffic study to show they are gonna get more traffic, then they increase the size of the road to get more traffic, and they say, yeah, it brought more traffic. Yeah. Just keeps going. Yeah.
So you.
We know how it works.
Interesting that sometimes the developers are required to do their own traffic study.
Well,
Are they required to go through like a township approved group to do that traffic study, or can they bring in their own person? Are they regulating themselves? You know. as
well,
far as
I
the
mean,
traffic study
look,
goes?
when you hire a third party to do something like that, I mean, obviously, if somebody comes in and presents a traffic study that the township felt was not a legitimate traffic study, they would say, this is not a legitimate traffic study. But you have certain companies that build their reputation on doing this. And most of the developers go to those. They're people that's what they do for a living. And so they would never not do a legitimate traffic study because they know that they're not going to be used. And so, no, there's not a list like you have to go to these 5, but typically you go to those 5 because they're the folks that do it on a regular basis.
Okay.
There's like certain requirements that have to be done for the traffic study and certain, things that have to be met. And if you're not doing that, then the traffic study is not considered a valid traffic study.
In terms of walkability,
Mhm.
there are a lot of people trying to cross from the corner of Newtown Square Presbyterian Church parking lot over to the tavern, and then into Lister whenever there's an event or whatever. The parking lot gets pretty full. And that is a seriously dangerous intersection. I mean, people are constantly running red lights there. I live there. I came here tonight, somebody cut right in front of me, making a left-hand turn in front of me, and I'm thinking, this is really a consistent place for, accidents. So I don't know if there's priorities. I mean, we've heard about Westchester Pike, but in terms of our job, walking trails, How do you get across something like 252 safely?
So there's, Mr. Neese, you brought this up in the past, there are areas, but it's a PennDOT thing. It's a PennDOT road, but there's areas where they have for crosswalks, the little island that is in between the opposing lanes of traffic. It's, I forget what they call it. You may have even said the right term, but there's like a pedestrian, like intermediate safety kind of island that you can go to because of the extreme length of it. You don't want to have the walk symbol be for so long that you would actually have it. And if for individuals with handicaps or that move slower, it provides them a break from then going the entire distance over that period of time very quickly when they're nervous about getting through before the traffic picks up again. So that would be the only thing for that particular intersection, because I've had the same thought. I mean, I go through it all the time and there's definitely a lot of issues there, but that's something, but it's a PennDOT road, right? So
It
I
is
don't
a-
know what
it
we
is-
have.
It is a PennDOT road. I will tell you, PennDOT has been, I think, receptive to us on different issues along that road. We've approached them. For example, when I came to town, one of the concerns was the fact that at the time, the speed limit was still 50, was it 55 coming into town, and going through that section all the way down to where where it changed to 35. And so, you know, I had a conversation with PennDOT kind of just on the side and said, explain to me why we go from 45 in Easttown to 55 for this short distance, dropping into a 35 in a very much more populated area. And I don't know, about 2 years later, they just came in and they changed all the signs. They never even said anything. They just did it. And so, and that's not saying people don't still drive 55, right? But, you know, that being said, I do think those kind of things PennDOT's aware of. They've been very responsive. And I believe, and George, I think there was a traffic study when Lister was put in at that location at Goshen Road.
There was, and PennDOT actually made a number of pedestrian improvements at that intersection back then. Now that was, what, 2016, I guess? But at the time, they looked at what was a concern and addressed it. But again, I don't think there's any problem with broaching a topic with them again.
Yeah. I mean, we've recently met with PennDOT and they were, you know, yep, we know that this is a problem. We're willing to work with you to try to address it up near the Meadow Preserve, which I know is next on the list.
Yeah, and part of the Westchester Pike widening project, they have been very focused on the intersections and the traffic signals, similar to what you were talking about as you were going through the report, and you said, you know, recommendations. Those are the kind of things that they have been doing while the widening project was going on that we may not notice because we see all the construction going on, but the majority of the signals through there have had pedestrian improvements made to them.
So maybe then, I mean, I don't know what the steps would be, but maybe it is appropriate in some way for us to find a way to engage with, through you know, having a conversation with PennDOT about that intersection and what can be done if that pedestrian island thing is a possibility. There's already a median, the small one there with the signage, so I don't think it would be as dramatic as some of the other roads in the township or intersections, but it is one that does have a lot of safety concerns.
George is making note and we'll put it on as a conversation with our next conversation with PennDOT.
That's very helpful. Thank you. Very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any comments or questions on that particular item? So, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything more on that? Appreciate everybody, commenting. 11.2. Meadow Preserve parking lot update, the PennDOT conversations, I guess, Lister, I think, was involved in your conversations. And the biggest concern, I think, from our committee was just the time frame of getting more parking spaces in.
Yep.
Versus the, what is it now, 4 or 5 spots? It was planned or something? I forget, sir. I can't remember. 8, maybe?
I think we're doing 8, you know,
8, okay.
And I think, was it 10? 10.
Was it 8 plus 2 handicap,
I think
maybe?
it's 8 plus, it's either 8 plus 2 handicap or 9 plus
Okay.
9 and 1. I think we originally had planned on doing 2 ADA spots. So where we are today, we've reviewed, we believe next steps are to address the entrance and exit. I have had a conversation with the engineer. There's some applications and some designs that have to be put forth. He's given the board, and we've put it out to the board of what it would cost to do some of the work that needs to be done. And so it's part of the budget for 2024. And we are in the process now. The engineer is putting the documentation together. That documentation has to be signed by us as well as Episcopal Academy, because they are the property owner. And so what I wanted to do was get it all put together, send it over to Episcopal Academy for their review. It will probably go to their board, and then it will go back to PennDOT. So it's going to take a little bit of time, but we're moving in that direction and starting there, because that's really the first thing that has to be done.
Is this Panoni that's doing this then?
It is Panoni.
Okay. And what is, I'll just ask your personal, like, what do you think the likelihood of Episcopal being good with this so far based on the conversations? Conjecture.
I'm going to say I'm hopeful.
Okay, that's good. I mean, I'm assuming you wouldn't obviously be continuing to push too hard if you were like, nah, it's a non-starter, obviously, and we talked about it before, but.
Let me say this, we believe that this needs to be done. We are going to
Thank
take every action that we possibly can to help move it in that direction. I can't say that it will be 100% it's going to get done. I think the board wants this done, so the board will take all, I assume will take all the steps that they need to take to help us get it to that location.
Greatly appreciate it. It's obviously been something that we've, in this committee, talked about for a while, and we're all kind of excited to hear that it's in the budget for 2024, and so, thank you. Anybody else have any questions on that? Okay. On to item 12, board comment, I guess. I don't even know what that's about. I think I accidentally put that in.
If there's something that somebody from the board wants to comment on, this would be an appropriate time.
Board or committee comment, because we're not.
Oh, committee.
So I was confused by that when I saw it in
Yeah,
there.
it should
That I
say
didn't know if
committee.
there, okay, I was confused that it was like the Board of Supervisors or
No.
something. That's what I was wondering. Okay, committee comment. Does anybody else have any other comments they want to bring up? Items, what I forgot to put on here is recommended items for next agenda meeting, so maybe we can have that here under board comment. Does anybody have anything that they would like to make sure gets on the minutes or the agenda for next meeting? Only thing I have then for next meeting is kind of putting a, I'll say in old business, I guess, but revisiting the thing with the sign to see if there's been at Lister on the trail to see if there's been anything there, if they've moved it. Guess that's really it, other than the other couple of recurring things. Hopefully, maybe by that point, we've had conversations regarding e-bikes and the zoning, maybe official thing, and maybe we have scheduled meetings for the official town map. So I don't think I have anything else. All right. Public comment, nobody in the public, so move on. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Moved by Joe, seconded by anybody?
Second.
Second by Terry. All those in favor of adjourning? Aye. Hearing none opposed, passes, we adjourn. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Brilliant.